Do most people get change management wrong?
They think, oh, just throw some fluffy comms at it, roll out some training, she'll be right. She's never right. It needs a commitment of effort, a commitment of resources, a commitment of people to actually make the change stick.
Friska Wyne, the change management expert who works with executives, teams, and billion-dollar businesses. She's led $170 million transformations at ASX-listed companies, is a two-time #1 best-selling author, and ranked as a top 25 global change thought leader. She's here to reveal how your hardest struggle could be your greatest strength.
We really should be normalizing the dialogue around feelings and fears.
Be worried if you didn't say that.
Guys, real men cry, it's okay. And the fake it till you make it doesn't work, because in this era of fake news, everything's fake.
What are the biggest fears that you see happening in an organisation when they're trying to bring something in that's new?
Simply put, they fear loss and they're scared of losing something that's dear to them.
How do you deal with that kind of initial perception when you start talking about something and people are just instantly like, no, I'd like it the way it is, thanks. Welcome to Flow Zone.
Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to have you here. As we could see, I've got my change agent shirt on today.
Nice.
And I've always really loved the idea of influencing not only a business, but a community or a whole industry. And it's been something that I've been at since I've been in real estate for over 20 years. But you are actually a best-selling author on this topic. And now you're a partner, like a change partner for large organizations for the consulting work you still do with Future Fit Ventures. Tell me, from what we read everywhere, 80% of attempts to change in organizations, they just fail. Those efforts fail.
100%.
So why do most people get change management wrong?
A few things. I think a lot of people underestimate exactly what it takes. They think, oh, just throw some fluffy comms at it, roll out some training, she'll be right. She's never right. So it needs a commitment of effort, a commitment of resources, a commitment of people to actually make the change stick. So that's the first reason why things fall apart. The second is in most big transformations, often the most senior person in the room is saying, hey, you lead it, just because you've been around here the longest or you're the most senior job title. It's not about that. It's about, who do people trust the most? Who do they listen to informally? Who has the credibility and the gravitas to get people to lower their defenses and be open to a new way of doing things? And last but not least, we're measuring the wrong things. So we are worried about speeds and feeds all the time when we really should be normalizing the dialogue around feelings and fears. Any change, even though it could be seen as positive to most people, still incites fear in some. And so we never have those sort of conversations in the workplace. We just park it to the side and we just mow on thinking that we can just ignore it, and that never happens.
Yeah, feelings and fears. Because in the end, when we're changing, we're helping change the mindset and the behavior of a group of people or individuals, right?
Yep.
It's like you don't change a business, you change the people within the business.
Correct.
Or the approach to things.
Yeah.
But the feelings that you're speaking about and the fears, like even in sales, for example, you can have a goal and it sounds like it's ideal. And then you can have an understanding of what's driving them towards that goal. Like usually it's a pain or something to get away from more than moving towards pleasure.
Yeah.
But if we don't deal with the unmet fears in that kind of even a one-on-one interaction, then it very rarely goes ahead. It sort of surfaces some other way. But if that fear's not sort of spoken about and addressed, it doesn't happen. What are the biggest fears that you see happening in an organisation when they're trying to bring something in that's new?
Simply put, they fear loss and they're scared of losing something that's dear to them. And it's usually one of these Ps. I call them 6 Ps. The first P, position, obviously. Right? We've gone maybe 2 minutes of talking. Let's talk about AI. People are scared AIs make them lose their position. Number 2 is prestige. Maybe they had a team of 10, now they've got a team of 2, and that really hits them in the ego. The third is performance. So maybe all these new technologies or new regulations means they're a little bit out of their depth and they can no longer perform at, say, 90%, and they don't want to look stupid in front of people. Protection, especially in the case of mergers and acquisitions or restructures. Maybe they were really good friends with their boss and that person is no longer there, gone. And pride. Maybe this person was number one top dog for the past 20 years doing it this way, and now that way's obsolete. So do we ever take the time to actually talk about these fears, unearth and address them? Not really, not authentically. And, you talked just then about the unmet fears in a sales conversation. Like 9 times out of 10 in an organization, a person is not going to say, hey, I'm pushing back because I fear losing my position. Like, it's not as straight cut as that. You need to observe, you need to listen, you need to ask people. So, and often the leaders think that they should know all the answers, but it's not. Making change happen in a business is very much a team effort.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And it doesn't need to be a big percentage of the team that's kind of detracting from that, whether they're kind of a genuine laggard and they're voting with their feet, like, I'm not doing this, or whether they're just kind of like, they're kind of being pulled along with it, but they don't own it. They don't want to be there.
Yeah.
It's very begrudging. What would you say of those 6 Ps is the kind of the biggest threat, the most challenging one to deal with?
Honestly, it depends on the culture. Like, for example, in Asia, and especially it depends on the age group that you're talking to, pride is the biggest driver, because we don't want to suffer from loss of face. Our job, our position, our hierarchy is everything to us. So that's usually number one. For a country like Australia, which is a lot more individualistic, it would be probably performance and maybe a bit of power or prestige. Yeah. So it's not a cookie cutter. Like, we're all quite different, and the things that drive us and the things that are important to us are different too.
And very personal things we're hearing here. And I imagine that really becomes more challenging as you go into the larger groups now, like following 2 best-selling books and all of the work you've done on the topic of change. You've spoken at conferences and end up with some of the biggest organizations in the world using you. How does that work when you've got enterprises that are so large? You've got kind of an executive team that very rarely comes down to earth and is on the front line. Then you've got these middle management layer, which can actually be the success or failure of an entire
They're often
enterprise.
the hardest people to get on board.
The
100%.
middle managers? Yeah. Why do you think
100%.
that is?
A few things. First, usually they're told about this change after it's been decided. So they have no power in it. They have no vested interest. They've got no commitment, no buy-in. And usually they're told so last minute, so flippantly by the C-levels, they haven't had the time and the opportunity to digest it and articulate what it means to them. And usually it's just this and this and this has happened, get your team on board. Well, they themselves are people, and it all starts from, lack of real conversations, time to digest, and direct communication.
There's a big communication piece here.
There is.
So let's go back to a little bit about what brought you into this industry in the first place. Your backstory is quite extraordinary. And I think I read that you'd been orphaned at 2 weeks of age.
Yeah.
And then, growing up, you faced intense racism. You overcame homelessness, possibly had a bit of a start with addiction. How did that shape your approach to working in this industry of helping people get on board with change?
I had to go through the process of changing myself and my entire life 180 degrees before I could help anyone do it for their organizations. I think I know what's involved and the grit and the resilience that's required to shift the way people think and behave. And often these people are a lot older, a lot more experienced than I am, but I'm not the kind of person that gives up really easily. And, we talked about getting people on board. Like, 1 conversation's not going to do it. 2 conversations not going to do it. It could take 100 conversations. But once that happens, you get to the tipping point and suddenly you have all this support and adoption for whatever change you're trying to drive in your organization. So a lot of people give up after 3 to 4 times. They think, that person's just difficult. They're never going to come around. But I don't see things that way.
I can certainly see overcoming the need to change yourself first is a very sensible place to start. And I suppose that could help you build muscle in that arena.
I mean, when you think about it, like, for example, real estate, right? If a guy doesn't have his own real estate portfolio and have experience doing his own real estate, why would he be trusted by other customers? Same with personal trainers. If they haven't gone through, shredding 20 kilos or whatnot, competing in a Miss Universe contest, whatever it is, if they haven't gone through it themselves, it's hard for them to teach other people to do it.
I see this a lot actually right now because we're in this age of AI and personal brands. We've already brought up AI in the first couple of minutes. But like with that, like intersecting that, it's almost like there's several things coming into the middle. And one of them is this rise of coaching, right? And, coaches back in the day, it was either you were trained for like 6 years and you were an elite sports science coach, or you were a coach at some kind of other like specific thing like speaking, like public speaking.
Yep.
Now you can be a coach by just ingesting information from other people and selling that on.
Yeah.
But without the lived experience of what it takes for that kind of change to take place, particularly when it's something like installing a whole new operating system in a business, which is where a lot of it is coming from right now. I believe personally it's so hard for those people to actually get lasting change in their clients because they just haven't been through what it takes to do that themselves. So it's a real hit and miss. How are you dealing with that yourself when you're going in these big organizations and they've sort of overheard something or they've had someone else come in with the pseudo good ideas, but they're not sticking? Where do you start in that environment?
There are lots of great ideas, but what makes the difference is the implementation part. And just because it's a great idea for company A doesn't mean it's a good idea for company B. That's why I think, people who partner with organizations are still going to be in demand because it's not a cookie cutter approach. And the more tools you have in your toolkit, the more you can assess and discern which tool to use at which moment to get you the objective that you're trying to achieve. Yeah. And I mean, I think it was maybe 2 months ago I saw in the paper, and this is the challenge. If people are not experienced and haven't gone through it themselves, it's very easy to be fooled. Like that piece in, I can't remember which newspaper, I think the AFR or the Australian or whatnot, one of the big four consultants sold a $440,000 AI report. Turned out 80% of it was inaccurate. No one checked. Either no one checked, they were too lazy, or they didn't know how to check. So things like that will happen if you just rely on pseudo-experts who just train themselves on YouTube and ChatGPT. And I agree with you. There's a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I like about your story is you have lived it, and then to go out and put out a piece of written literature, it's kind of like the ultimate bio, really. And I've had other authors on here, Alan Dibb, number 1 and 2 marketing author in the world many times in Amazon and other lists. And he talks about like it's kind of the ultimate representation of what you're about or what you believe, because you're putting your name behind it. But there was other examples in your kind of foundation story there, like when you were coming out of this period of homelessness and addiction and you needed to get yourself back into employment. You went and worked in a jewelry store. And I think some of the pieces that you were speaking about, you sold some jewelry worth more than the apartment that you were in at the time. What did that teach you about influence and influencing change or getting people to move ahead with something and making them comfortable with something?
I learned not to be fazed by wealth or fancy job titles. After that, he was just another dude that liked a watch, So what sales training did for me is because, being an only child, all I had to comfort myself were books and dolls. So I felt I was being held back because I didn't have the people skills, the relational skills, the conversation skills. So I think getting to know people, influence, sales, it is just a conversation. And the more comfortable you are in your own skin to have that conversation, the more influential you'll be.
Yeah, that gap you talk about with wealth, that's a really big one. I reckon that's a really big one. And there's a knife's edge there with it sometimes, because people that are dealing with wealthy people a lot of the time, they'll want to kind of drum up like they are too.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they'll just make a little side comments here and there, but it really does show up when someone's kind of doing the pretend thing.
Yeah.
You see it at conferences a lot. You see it in real estate a lot. It's actually a bit of the dark side of the industry, in my opinion, that the sort of flashiness, sort of fake it till you make it kind of situation. But to be in a position where you're just having a conversation with someone else, I think a lot of the times in an influence situation or a sales situation, the words that are said are actually stopping someone going ahead. You know, there might actually be a genuine desire to move forward, whether it's a purchase or to make that change. But then by throwing in more stuff and your opinion on things, it actually confuses the matter a lot of the time.
Yeah.
How do you see that playing out when people are trying to get something over the line in an organisation and you're around to observe that? What are the common mistakes you're seeing happening there when they're trying to get things over the line?
Too much chest beating. It's not about you. So instead of talking about, you know, the great things that you've achieved and why this will be different, just be more curious. I always ask more questions about themselves, about what's important to them. And the fake it till you make it doesn't work, because in this era of fake news, everything's fake. I think you should just work it till you become it, really. Because that's what I did. Didn't come overnight. And the times that I did try to fake it till I made it, always got found out. Like never, always burnt me in the ass, you know? So, so I learned that very early on not to do that. And I think, you know, in terms of, you know, being surrounded by extremely wealthy people, look, they're surrounded by ass-kissers day in, day out. So if you're not that, they'll actually be attracted to have a conversation with you.
I agree with that. It's something that I think it takes a lot of kilojoules of energy when someone is being an ass kisser and they've got really nothing to bring to the table. They want something from you. And I'm like, just ask what you want. Like if you're wanting to learn something, let's just go into that. Don't do all the beat around the bush stuff first. I've heard you talk about relational intelligence, RQ, not EQ, not IQ, RQ. And I think this is going to dovetail into some of your stories here. Can you just unpack RQ for our audience so that we can get a bit of a feeling of why we need that extra initial in front of the Q rather than just IQ and EQ?
Yeah. So emotional intelligence is the ability to identify and manage your own emotions as well as identify the emotions of others. Relational intelligence is about knowing, not just knowing what emotions are present in others, but knowing how to galvanize, strengthen, and build relationships with other people, whether it's in the workplace, in the home, in your community, or in your personal life. So there's a difference. Just because you know someone's sad doesn't mean you know what to say to help them feel better. And that's the difference between EQ and RQ.
Okay. Yeah. Have you coined this phrase? I haven't actually heard it that much.
No, I wish I could hang my hat on that. See, I'm not faking it till I make it.
There we go. Right down the barrel there, guys. This is real life action.
No, that was coined by Esther Perel. That's where I first heard it. I thought, oh, brilliant. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. And like the way that you've unpacked that, because I hear a lot of people go, oh, yeah, I've got a really high EQ, you know, I'm really great with people or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more about how they understand themselves. And look, you can perceive other people's emotions, but that doesn't mean you're docking in and, you know, you're lining up with them in a sustainable way from what I've just understood from that.
Yeah.
So one of the assignments that I read about that you had done was to do with the Western Australian Police.
Oh, that was my favourite one.
Oh, your favourite one. I'm so glad I picked your favourite one. Now, like we talk about situations in organisations, man, like this is major, this is life and death. And it's like, well, is it really life and death? Or is it like, you know, you're just not going to get the same dividend this quarter?
Yeah.
But this police stuff is life and death when you're dealing with emergency services and everything there. So can you give us a bit of a rundown on this project?
It was a technology project. Basically, it was like having a heart and lung transplant. The heart was 20 years old, diseased, rotting, barely functioning. So we had to take out the heart, put a brand new bionic super duper heart and reconnect all the arteries. And when I say arteries, I mean Department of Health, Department of Child Protection Services, mental health services, Centrelink, et cetera. So that really was a life or death change, because imagine sending a police helicopter in the wrong direction or responding to a call for assistance at an armed robbery and it's the completely wrong address. So these were the stakes that we were dealing with.
So you've got to connect all of the affiliated services around to get it happening. But did you actually play a lead role in the tech itself? Is that what I'm hearing?
No,
there?
not the tech itself. I'm not a techie. I played a lead role in the engagement, making sure that people were proficient, making sure they were aware of it, and making sure they bought in. They bought in and they were, from day one, 000 calls for assistance. Everybody knows the button to press, what to say, how to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not technical. A change person, their objective is, you know, usually adoption, engagement, buy-in, commitment, and satisfaction.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great time for businesses to have the best possible percentage chance of getting new technologies over the line. Like there's no doubt, in my opinion, AI is as big as electricity. You know, like it's pretty damn major. The speed things are moving at is very high. I'm consuming as much as I can about just what's possible right now. But I do feel that can form a gap in an organisation, and I'm kind of over communicating at the moment what I'm looking into, just so people know, hey, this is up ahead. We're signalling it. And I don't know if I'm doing that in a helpful way, but with so many businesses now starting to realise that they're going to have to adopt technology in a better way than they are. They've got profit and loss statements that aren't working for them. There's a culture that's unsure about where we go next, will we survive, will we not? What are some basic steps that some of our business and entrepreneurial audience can take from here? Let's say we want to put AI into a business. Let's say it's a voice AI receptionist, and let's say it's going to be conversational chatbots to get clients re-engaging. What would some basic steps be if you got an assignment like that to help a business, put this through?
First of all, make sure you pick the right tool. So know what you're trying to achieve, know what the SLAs are. Is it increased number of queries this bot can take? Is it increasing customer satisfaction by, to 90% or something? Or is it not reducing the number of staff you have that do those calls? So once you're clear on your objective, you can then make sure you have the best chance in picking the best tool. And when you have picked that tool, the best way to reduce fear is to get people involved, right? People support and buy in to whatever they create with their own hands. So give them a role in customizing it, or let them sit into the vendor demo sessions. So that way, when it comes to closer and closer to go live date, people aren't scared out of their minds. They've seen it, got it, seen it. It's going to free my time up to do this instead. So you'll reduce a lot of the resistance if you invest in this early engagement up front.
Yeah, that early engagement, it seems to be something that people like to know it's coming, and then they sometimes get a little bit, well, I've suffered from this, so I don't know if any of our audience has and some of your clients, but where I've signaled something coming and I've talked about it's going to be a bit of a build and this is the kind of, future state we're after. This is the kind of advantages for all stakeholders. People are like, yeah. And then I see a couple of people going, yeah, you said this last time, and I bet you it'll take longer and it won't work as well. And it's almost like straight away they're like,
on the defensive. Yeah.
How do you deal with that kind of initial perception when you start talking about something and people are just instantly like, no, I'd like it the way it is, thanks. What's the sort of opening there?
If it's not an option, that keeping things the way they are, then just say that out front. Just say, look, things are changing whether you like it or not. So you can either get on the bus and be involved in making sure this is a success for you, or you can opt out. I mean, there's no point carrying all these, I wouldn't even call them laggards, carrying these people who will never come over and never get on the bus no matter what you do. So I think decide, are they really worth it? Should you be carrying them in your business? Because some people won't change. Number two, if their points were valid, and this has been the case in many of the clients that I've worked with, the previous project went off the rails, it was a lot of pain. So obviously people are not going to put their hand up and say, yes, please, more of that. Make sure you have your talking points solidified. Explain why this is going to be different. How are you going to prevent the past mistakes from occurring now? And last but not least, we are so bombarded with information day in, day out. Our attention spans compared to pre-COVID is 2.5 times less than that.
Really?
100%. Wow. Because our surge capacity has been depleted. So this means, just because you've signaled doesn't mean they remember everything. Most likely they won't remember much at all, because the first time you signal, they're probably thinking, oh, what time do I have to pick up the kids today? What am I going to make for dinner? Blah, 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 blah. So you have to layer in that understanding. And last but not least, because we are all so forgetful, myself included, have somewhere you can point people to, and that is your Bible. I call it the spot, the single point of truth, because rumors, gossip will fly. The more people you have, the more they'll chat around the tea break, saying, oh, he said this, he said that. But if you keep on directing people to one single channel and you keep that channel ruthlessly updated, honest and transparent, sooner or later, those gossip and rumors are not going to fly.
Single point of truth.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great take-home value straight
Just
away.
one source, not 5 sources,
Yeah.
one source. One source you always point people to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I totally get what you're saying. Like they're thinking about the kids and things like that. And I've seen this a lot as we've implemented scaling up in our organisation and, you know, the roles of a leader that Vern Harnish talks about. You know, we've got to be able to predict the future. That's one of them. And you've got to be able to delegate, which is, you know, getting that same message all the way through. When Patrick Lencioni talks about that as well. And repeat. So this communication we talk about, sometimes like you said before, you might have to talk about it 100 times. Does that have any reference to the card game that I heard you made with like 86 questions on it to help change happen?
Oh, yeah. I found that, you know, a lot of these projects fall over because people aren't having the right conversations, and they're not having the right conversations because they're not asking the right questions. So unless you're a seasoned change person, you won't know the questions to ask or how to ask it. Or maybe you are asking it, but you're asking it in a way that puts people's backs up, that gets them defensive or offended. So this was an idea that I had way back when, during lockdown, actually. That was when I first came. But then when all our borders open, I got busy traveling, blah, blah, blah. So I only created this product this year.
Wow.
And it's been received really, really well. Like people have been using it in such creative ways. Some people have been using it as an interviewing technique to see how people respond on the fly to particular elements of change. So
can you describe what it is now? The
I
card
can do
process?
better than describe. I actually brought a box. So it's called Future Talk.
Future Talk, I
and
love
you can
it.
see that there's 6 icons, and they represent the 6 categories of change where the rubber hits the road. And you can see that, you know, one is called leadership, one's called perspective, one's called yourself, another is people, another is capability. And some of the questions are, for example, what are the top 3 skill sets we lack today?
Wow.
And how about tomorrow? And another question could be, who has the potential to jeopardize this for us?
These are good questions.
So often we just don't sit around and ask these questions within our teams, you know, or what has been the most meaningful kudos you've received, right? Because change is hard, and we want to know what gets people like motivated, like what sort of kudos is most meaningful to them. So
I'm on the list to buy some of these. I want these cards.
yeah, so you can use them in one-on-one conversations. I've used them in one-on-one conversations with executives. You can play with your team in your team meetings, or you can do a full-blown workshop with them. So they're just a tool. It's up to you how you want to use them.
I think that's fantastic. I love having artifacts or tools, especially when it's from someone validated that is coming from a perspective of, you know, what helps, what works, what accelerates things. Because sometimes we try and do these tools ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think in the age of AI now, sometimes we try and get a little bit of coaching done and maybe a bit of thinking done for us. And then we launch, you know, I've got this great idea. I got it off ChatGPT. And you go, blah, and everyone's like, wah, 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 wah. It's like a big flop.
Yeah.
So are you familiar with the work of Chip and Dan Heath, the Heath
Yes, I
brothers?
love their books.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Like Switch was, for me, super meaningful. Made to Stick, also a good one. And they've got another one called The Power of Moments, which is, you know, it's kind of a cross between change management and, you know, customer experience. When you're coming into an organization and you're looking at things like, geez, I can really see this needs to change.
Yeah.
Is it just absolutely obvious to you, like, which of the 6 Ps are going on when you start asking questions? Is it really easy to spot?
Not always. Sometimes it takes a few conversations with someone to uncover the reality. Yeah. But I make sure I get a well-rounded view by chatting to other key people in the business as well.
Yeah. Now that you're sort of, you know, best-selling author and you're really doing the more enterprise grade stuff, how does your work make its way into an organization? Do you have other consultants that you now sort of deploy, or do they just take in your learnings?
I have partners that I collaborate with. It really depends on the extent of the project. Like, for example, one of the top 5 families in Indonesia in fast-moving consumer goods, he wants a leadership offsite for 30 of his team members next year. So that's something that I can't take on by myself. So I've got other trusted partners that do that with me. Yeah.
So what's been the hardest thing to change in your own life, in your own world, in your own business?
In my own life, my God, I've got a really big sweet tooth. Jeez, I'm addicted to Yochi. Like I've been there every single friggin' day since I've been in Australia. Can Yochi sponsor me, please? Thank you very much. Yeah.
There's about 5 different kinds of it in Melbourne
I'm obsessed.
Have you been to the one in Carlton by any chance?
Yeah.
It's pumping.
It's
hey.
huge. Yep. No matter what time of day, even it's winter, everyone's got their puffy jackets on, freezing, lines out the door. Yeah. I love Yochi.
Tell us, even though it's not the main topic of today, understanding, we are understanding change management, but I'd also like to understand what sort of difference it made for you, what change it made for you when your TEDx talk made the top 1% of TEDx talks and actually got promoted to TED.
Right.
That's a big deal. Like that's what happened.
I had to pinch myself. Yeah.
That's what happened to Simon Sinek. We start with why. That was a TEDx talk.
Yeah.
So what changed for you after that?
Well, it opened the door for a lot of bigger stages.
Mm-hmm.
People kept on asking me for more detail on what I meant by certain elements. And that's really why I wrote the first book, because I thought, wow, if people are this interested in it, okay, fine, I'll turn my 15 minutes into 15 chapters.
Yeah.
And then that went to number 1 really quickly in 36 hours. I guess the most crazy thing that's happened to me since all that was I was on holiday and I got an inquiry. My assistant said I got an inquiry through my website to speak at this event. And I thought it was a scam immediately because the lady's name that sent the inquiry was Zaza Zarilla. I'm like, come on, who's called Zaza? Like, seriously? So I just punted
Stage
it.
name.
Yeah. I said, just ignore that. Like, it sounds like a porn name. Just leave it. No one in their right mind would name their child Zaza Zarilla. Anyway, a few days later, same email came in. Can we please have a chat? This event is less than 3 weeks' time, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, we finally get on the phone and she's like, look, I represent this conference. We want you to speak at this event. It's about this topic. Can you send us what you could do for a keynote? It's for an audience of 400 C-levels dotted around Asia. I was like, great. And because I still wasn't that sure whether this was legit or not, I threw a ridiculous number out there. And they accepted it with no negotiation, no nothing.
Zaza.
Yeah, like multiple 5 figures. And I was like, damn, should have asked for more. Anyway, long story short, when I'm picked up at the airport, she greets me and she goes, oh, welcome, ma'am, Friska, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, the whole reason why we reached out to you is because our CEO read your book and he loved it. And he said, this lady has to speak at our event.
Wow.
So that is the power of, creating something and kind of sharing it with the world. You get people that are your tribe opting in. They already know they like you. They already know they want to do business with you. And often, like whatever it takes, they'll get you across the line.
Actually, I'll agree with that wholeheartedly. Like I've heard people like Hormozy say that when someone's consumed 3 to 4 hours of your content, when they jump on a discovery call, they're already buying.
Yeah.
Like they know your philosophies, they know what you're about. There's so much less friction in the sales process because they just want to know, does it apply to them and how do I get it?
Yeah.
Rather than, are these guys sus? Are they real? Are they just putting it over me?
Yeah.
And then Alan Dibb, who's been one of my guests here, who wrote Lean Marketing and One Page Marketing Plan, he talks about it as that ultimate resume, basically, because you can get an opportunity to talk about your backstory. You get an opportunity to talk about these killer topics.
Yeah.
But then when people start actually getting benefit from the book alone, they're like, well, if I get to someone in his organization, that's going to be better than the book. And if I can get further up from, from bronze to silver to gold to platinum, if I get closer to the source of the knowledge, that's going to be even better. I think it's an interesting time for literature at the moment too, because you've kind of got these authors that were authors before AI. And now you've got everyone can be an author. And I actually think there's some validity in that too. I don't think that everyone's faking it because they can now use AI to help them write a book better, because it's kind on people to write in a way they can consume better, in my opinion. Yep. Same with content. Like, if we're on a platform that's short form, we've got to get that hook and that key point out there pretty early, because it's not fair on them to have to listen through 16 seconds to figure out if there's anything good at second 22. So I think when it comes to the writing of content right now, what's hard for me as someone consuming it is to go to authors that didn't exist before, because like I know there's so many that have just come up overnight like mushrooms. And that would have happened in previous times gone by as well. I remember there used to be silent movies. I wasn't alive then, but I've watched a doco on it.
Yep.
And silent movies, it was a different type of acting altogether. It was more about how they moved around and the facial gestures they made. But then when they started talking, they were boring as hell. They didn't have anything to say. They're all just good looking, And so then that's when all the Broadway people started becoming movie actors. And then that morphs. What do you see happening with that? You're a published author. What do you see happening in that world right now?
I think it's not enough now to just write something. People want to know you. I think whether you like it or lump it, personal brand is getting more important today. Because if you don't say what you stand for, people will assume that you'll stand for nothing. And so rather than letting people assume, you should take control of that. Like it's a great opportunity. And, since I became more active sharing thought leadership with the world, I've met incredible people literally all around the world. It's changed my life, and they've become not just clients, but they've become partners, they've become referral channels, they've become collaborators. I mean, that's why we're sitting here today, right? We would never have met otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another reason why I wanted to honour you with bringing the change agents to the table, because I thought this was just the perfect intro. You're sitting there with Future Talk cards. You'll get one of these shirts anyway. AI, personal brands. We've said AI. Personal brands, it's a huge thing right now. And I think there's a real edge to it, because if you don't stand for something, then you stand for nothing. And it's very true. Like if someone doesn't have an opinion, it's just like, why would I watch that?
Yeah.
Why would I listen to that? But when you've got someone who's predisposed or wanting to build their personal brand, particularly if they're a leader of an organisation and people inside that organisation might not feel as comfortable being out there themselves.
Yep.
And so they get that kind of comparison syndrome where they're like, well, I wouldn't do that, so therefore we're different, so therefore I don't know how I feel about my boss now. What's your advice to founders or leaders that are developing personal brands to help the change management within their organisation be comfortable with it and maybe even come on the journey with them?
I think you just need to show your human side, to be honest. And if you're wanting to lead your people through a significant change, share a change that you actually didn't like and why you didn't like it and what helped you change your mind and what's been the benefits. So it makes them feel more less than this is being done to us rather than we're all in this together, and actually he's actually gone through it himself. And so if he can do it, why can't I do it? So people will be inspired by that. Yeah. And share a time when you changed your mind about something fundamental, because I say, I'm giving all this advice on how to get people on board, but sometimes the signal is so loud that there really is something wrong with this change that you're trying to implement. So just give people a voice, do a quick analysis. Does it have any merit or legs to it? And if it's no, then share the no and why, which is most important, right? There's nothing worse than asking for feedback and nothing bloody changes. Right? Like those employee engagement surveys, what would make life better? It's like, oh, we want a coffee machine, we want this, we want that, and then nothing changes. It's like, why are you even asking me for my opinion?
Yeah.
So if you're going to go through the motions, make sure you commit to taking action in light of the feedback that you've received.
That's a really great one, actually. I remember when we were changing from being with a dealer group, sort of like a franchise model, to becoming independent. Now, we put a lot of effort into that change management. We were under fire at the time in the media. We got smeared by a bunch of competitors and it was horrible. And we still have, flashbacks of it. But this was a really positive change and it gave us so much opportunity. And I actually did something pretty rare. I went to the team and kind of let them know that we were going to make the change, but we hadn't decided which path we were going down. So we were leaving the franchise group, we were giving our notice, but we had the option to go another franchise group, but better. And we had all of them chasing us. So there wasn't a problem with finding one, but there was possibly more of the same, like territorial issues and legacy issues and da-da-da. Or we could go partnering with an independent, like a large group that wanted to come into our region. And we had a couple of good offers on the table there, ones that would have made my life a lot easier. And the third one was go ground up independent. And I really went out of my way to say, this is going to be harder. It's going to be longer. It's going to feel like it's not working. And I'm not pushing you towards it. The advantages are that we don't have territorial issues and we can adapt and be agile and whatever else. But I never oversold any of them.
Yeah.
I was blown away that we had verbal feedback almost instantly, but then we had all the surveys coming in. It was
You want to go your own path, right?
Yeah, 99. Like
Yeah,
it was so high. And
Yeah.
even the ones that voted for like independent or the one or two that voted franchise, they were all like, but if you want to go independent, I'll totally understand. So I was like, okay, we've got full adoption here. This is wonderful. Then when we went into actually developing the brand, and like, you know, we got very high level people involved in that were hugely respected by our team. So I thought, well, there's a credibility piece. But it's interesting when we said, like, you know, what kind of things would you like to be considered in the process? We're not saying everything's going to be adopted. And we made that really clear too. And people did put good time into those surveys and there was really quite thematic answers. Like, and real estate agents in particular, you know, they've often got a fragile ego. As much as it seems like they're very extroverted and confident. A lot of the time,
Shiny shoes and the Ferrari are making up for something, I know.
Yeah. so it's quite often an insecurity there somewhere, you know, not good enough stuff. And I remember one particular employee, as they resigned, I'm moving forward on the story here, as they resigned not long after the brand change, they'd had a bit of stuff going on in their own life. And they're like, did you even read my feedback on the survey? And I'm like, every word of it. Like, and I told you that. And he's like, well, why didn't you give us more promotion? You said you were going to listen to everyone. And what he was talking about, he wanted big photos of himself on the sign, which is like 1980 sort of franchise material. The premium brands that they all admire put the property first because it's out the front of the property and they've got a name on it. They're like, we think it's all about the brand and you don't care about us, so I'm going to go somewhere where I can do what I want with marketing. But what stuck with me is like they said, did you even read my survey? And I'm hearing you say that. It's like what I didn't do was explain
the rationale
directly to that person. I did it in an audience. I went, look, the reason that we aren't putting big photos of real estate agents on it is this, this, and this. I even got the branding experts to say the same, but what I didn't do was say it to them. I wonder if that's a key message for me. Anyway, look, we're not meant to be in the same business anyway, so we can live with that. Okay, the second practical question I have is you've got a real theme in a lot of the talks I've listened to of yours, communicate early. I think you said it like 5 or 6 times, early. How early and what does that really look like in practice?
When you know something's going to change. Even if you don't have all the details, you need to start talking about it because people are forgetful, you know, and that way you're building on to the awareness and their understanding. That way when it finally does come, the fear level reduce. They'll be like, okay, I heard him talk about this 6 months ago. I knew it was coming. So,
Okay, so that's where the repeat is very important. So it's early and frequent.
I know it's annoying because every executive tells me the same damn thing. Like I don't have time, blah, blah, blah. You need to make time because if you don't make the time to create awareness and understanding and reduce fear now, when it's go time, you're going to be battling resistance till the very bitter end, and that's going to be more expensive and more painful for you.
Yeah, and it's that pain that you can't see. It's kind of like the communication, the way I'm rationalizing what you're saying here. It's like insurance. You know, you pay insurance regularly, and sometimes you see it come out of the bank. And you're like, damn, we pay a lot for insurance. Like health insurance is a lot. Professional indemnity insurance is a lot. Contents insurance, my Airbnb properties. So much insurance. But then when you need to draw upon it, it's like, thank freak, I've got insurance. And I feel like in change management, the way you're speaking is that the communication being early, frequent, building upon each other is like putting insurance into it.
It's making an investment. It's making an investment in the success of your change because 90% of my clients come to me when they're in pain and they haven't made that investment and now it's more expensive for them to get them to where they need to be.
Oh, I have to chime in on that then because the pain is a stronger motivator than pleasure as we talked about before.
Yes, it is.
What's the number one fear that people have of engaging you that you overcome?
They're honestly scared of failure because they've failed all this time and they're worried that this is not going to be any different and they'll be even more out of pocket through investing in consultancy.
How do you help overcome that?
I usually point out why it hasn't worked in the past and why this time's going to be different. and what the ROI is from engaging someone like me. Like, for example, if you've got 1,000 people, they're supposed to know how to use this particular platform to process invoices or whatever from day one, and it takes them 90 days. That's 3 months worth of salaries you're paying for non-performance and unproductivity. That's way more than I would charge for my support. So yeah, just pick your poison.
I think the quantification or the measurement is something I've picked up there as being very important, right? So you said before, like, we need to know what we're going to change. We need to know we've got the right tool. And I imagine one of the things that you also need to put out there is, how are we going to measure if this is working? Because I heard you say some people measure the wrong things.
Yes.
So is that something that you insist upon at the start, that we're going to determine what success looks like when you go into an organization?
Definitely need to determine what success looks like. Like for example, for one organization, it could make sense for a measure of a success could be the number of service desk tickets, right? Increasing. So increasing, that means people are using the system, blah, 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 great. But for another, they could want it to decrease because it's a policy change, for example. So if you're measuring the wrong thing, something could look great, but it actually indicates that you're in a worse off state than you were before the change.
It's like John Doerr says, measure what matters. Yeah, I feel like that's a good one, especially when there's multiple people involved, like multiple decision points in an organization, in B2B in particular. And I've seen it a lot when I've got an operating system in real estate called Fishing Upstream. And it's really about meeting every customer avatar as a true customer, not just the ones who engage you as a client. So in Australia, owner-side real estate is the main kind of real estate. So you're servicing property management landlords, like investors. You're servicing people who want to sell. But there's a whole raft of other people out there called buyers and tenants that are actually the people you engage with the most. So it's a dual-sided business model. And a lot of agencies, the majority, unfortunately, more than half, treat tenants like cattle, and they treat buyers like, well, they have to buy through me anyway. So I'm only going to deal with the ones that are just making it really obvious they want to buy. And if they're smart to me, I'm going to prove them wrong. And they're not going to get a call back, and that sort of stuff is like horrible to think about. Whereas if we want to make that change and start giving more of a damn about the buyer and the tenant, we've got to show, well, what does success look like here? When will we start to notice a difference? Because these things can take 12, 18 months to pull off. There's no average time for change, right? Because it depends on, how much change needs to be had.
Correct. But after it's in, if you're not getting visible benefits by like month 3, month 4, something's wrong. You need to develop corrective action. Maybe people need more training, or maybe one of your processes is broken. So yeah, you don't get benefits immediately overnight usually. But however, after a few months, if you're not seeing any of those metrics change, you need to do something differently.
Yeah, good points. Okay, here we go for rapid fire coming up. All right, so the lightning round. So just give us your honest take on this. I'll start the line, and then and you finish it in your own words. Most leaders expect everyone else to change, but
themselves.
It seemed like too obvious that one, didn't it? The reason 80% of change efforts fail is
lack of self-awareness.
When someone resists what you're proposing, they're actually scared of losing
themselves, their identity, what they value.
Yeah. That does seem like it came up a lot in the 6 Ps. In different cultures, and it is a similar thing amongst cultures too, right? When someone, sorry, I just said that one. Business owners who try to DIY their change management.
Yep. Come to me crying.
Well, I'd be worried if you didn't say that.
Guys, real men cry. It's okay.
At least you know you got pain then. You don't need to worry about that being a driver. Okay. The best way to get someone to trust you is?
I would say it depends on the person. Because some people are influenced by case studies and statistics. Some people just need to like you. They need to vibe with you. And some people will only listen to other people which they really trust. So in that case, it's a referral or positive word of mouth. The key is know who you're trying to influence. Know who you're trying to develop a good relationship and know what makes them tick.
Yeah, I'm guessing that last bit there, know what makes them tick. So when we say we know someone, it's not knowing their name or what their title is. It's knowing what drives them and what's important to them.
And how they like to receive information, right? Like if I'm talking about a change project, when I'm presenting to a CFO, I'm not talking about proficiency. I'm not talking about satisfaction. I'm talking about dollars saved, like minutes shaved off or things like that. So yeah, know how to communicate to them.
I think something else with trust, it's a word that gets thrown around a lot. It's like loyalty. It gets thrown around a lot. And I think a lot of people with loyalty as an example, they think about loyalty more like mercenary. You know, I've been loyal to you all this time, you know, like I've been in this team all this time or I've been working in this company all this time. But realistically, if you halved the pay, they would have gone like 10 years ago. Or even if you took it to market rate, they would have gone 10 years ago. If you weren't the leading brand, they would have gone 10 years ago. So they're actually there because the wicket's been the best the whole time.
Yeah.
But then when they're asked to do something that demonstrates loyalty, when there's a choice to go somewhere else and you choose to stick through it, that's when you can kind of determine whether loyalty has existed. It's not something, you're not being loyal all the time. You reflect on a period where you've been loyal.
Yeah.
So, but with trust, it's such a tough one because like, you know, I hear my daughters talk about it when they're on games like Roblox and Minecraft and that. Do I trust this guy on this trade? Should I trust him? And then I watch them on YouTube with these people showing them how to play the game. Should I trust him? Oh, no, he blew me up. Oh, no, I shouldn't have trusted him. And it gets thrown around so easily. But I think one of the ways that I have observed from the people that seem to inspire trust quite quickly is that they're incredibly consistent at following through with what they said, even if it was small.
100%.
You know, like just saying, I'll call you at this time. And then they call it that minute. Like not 20 minutes earlier and not 3 minutes later, that minute.
Dependable. Yep.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that dependability. It's like, I don't know exactly what you're going to say, but I do know that you're going to make an effort to go through with what you've committed to.
Yeah.
And I think that inspires trust. What do you think on that?
Agree. Yeah. When your words match your actions and you start to become known for that, you can sell ice to Eskimos. Yeah.
That's good. You know, flow zone's all about getting into your zone of genius. And when you're in flow, time goes at a different speed. You know, when your challenge is matched only just to the edge of your skills, that's when you can experience flow as well. So thanks for being in this conversation. I know there's going to be a lot of value for our listeners here and viewers. I'm going to close on this because we've got a lot of people, like I said, entrepreneurs and business people, but in some way or another, we're all in some interpersonal relationship, whether it's a sports team, whether it's a family household, whether it's like you're working in a one-person band, but you've got affiliates you need to work with. And change is inevitable. We have to make it. And if we can lead the change, then we're a bit more in control of where we're going. For someone that's listening right now and they're struggling to get people in their world to do things differently, to bring about that change, whether it's clients, teams, stakeholders or whatever, what can they do this week to positively influence that change coming to life?
Role model it. Start building a learning culture. And if you're struggling with getting people to learn something different, do something different, maybe flip it. Let's start with unlearning, right? Because everybody in this room and that's listening has things that no longer serve them, right? And as kids, we were really good at this. We learned our ABCs, proper sentence structure, grammar, and we unlearned throwing tantrums and the goo-goo gagas, right? Now, but as adults, we have let this unlearning muscle atrophy. We're so focused on learning, we've forgotten about the unlearning part. So if learning is stretched too far, start with unlearning. Like do a team reflection, you know, gather around, make it a ritual. Like what are things that we should be stopping? What are things that are not helping us get to where we want to be? So then at least you'll be lighter when it comes to learning something new. So you can't keep on adding without subtracting because, it just doesn't work that way.
Cup overflows.
Yeah, cup overflows.
That's a really, that's quite profound that. I reckon if you could turn that into some sort of quote, that'd make a good...
Let's collaborate on another T-shirt about that.
We'll spin off another business out of this. Yeah, well, thanks very much for coming on Flow Zone, Friska. This has been high value. I've learned a lot in this and I know our audience will as well. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.